Hi everyone, Therapy Sessiano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Snoop Dogg record, Bush. Iconic West Coast MC Snoop Doggy Dogg in his new Pharrell Williams produced record over here, Bush, with features from Stevie Wonder, T.I., Rick Ross, Kendrick Lamar, Gwen Stefani of No Doubt, Charlie Wilson, and again on this LP we have Pharrell Williams, star producer, songwriter, The Neptunes, NERD, and recently his career has been hotter than ever thanks to the work he's done with Daft Punk and his own solo stuff. I mean, huge hit with the song Happy off his last full-length LP. He's also been all over The Voice. There's just not much more visibility Pharrell could be getting right now. And then there's Snoop Dogg, who doesn't really need much of an introduction either. This is his first solo album under his dog name since turning into a reggae lion a few years ago. A move most music careers probably would not have survived, but Snoop is not in the position of most musicians. He is one of the godfathers and architects of modern rap as we know it, and he's responsible for some of the genre's most memorable and significant songs. That's not really a reputation you could shake overnight. Plus all of the extracurricular activities he would do after the 90s, collaborations, movie appearances, so on and so forth, as well as some solid singles, would sort of turn him into this worldwide icon. He's just kind of become this universally celebrated figure, not just because of his music, but because of his image and his style and just his vibe that he brings in music or in interviews or whatever project he's sort of involved in. Now let's also get out of the way. Much of Snoop Dogg's discography since his second album has been super mediocre. Almost every record he's put out since then has had at least a few decent singles on it. But, you know, let's be honest, Snoop's success, at least right now, or as of late, doesn't really hinge on him putting out a good record. Snoop's place in hip-hop history is solidified, and he's been doing a good job of just kind of keeping his brand alive by staying in the public eye. And, you know, doing that doesn't necessarily involve making just top-notch records or anything like that. I mean, at this point, all we really require of Snoop Dogg is that he does a few decent appearances and hops on other people's singles, as well as drops maybe a good single or two on his own every year. And, you know, at this point, he's essentially fulfilled that annual or sort of biannual quota, especially with the song Peaches and Cream, which is the lead single off of this LP, has an old school synth funk vibe to it. Think like George Clinton, Funkadelic, Rick James, Prince, for some more recent examples, Thundercat, Chromeo, Mark Ronson. But the production on this track and Pharrell's approach to reliving this very popular at one time genre, it's just way more clean and smooth. Not necessarily in a bad way, it's just kind of Pharrell's style. The lyrics on the chorus of this song are almost total trash, but there are some very charismatic bars in the verses on this track. I don't do it for the haters, I do it for the players. If the rest of this LP followed Peaches and Cream's formula, it actually wouldn't have been that bad. But Snoop does far more singing than he does rapping all over this album. Peaches and Cream features the few rap verses that Snoop actually brings to the table. Snoop sings so much on this record, when other rappers hop on, he just kind of merely sounds like the guest singer on his own song, and then the rapper comes in to kind of do their thing. And the guest verses on this LP aren't really that bad. I mean, T.I.'s appearance is pretty decent. Kendrick's verse is great. Rick Ross is okay. Not that I was really expecting that much from Rick Ross. The Maybach music watermark is just so annoying. Why does it have to be everywhere? My issue with this record really though is that Snoop's singing isn't particularly good. It's mixed very low on most of these songs, and it sounds like it's just undergone some very heavy manipulations. I'm not trying to say auto-tune or anything like that, but there's just something kind of faintly robotic and stiff and inhuman about the way Snoop's vocals sound on this LP. The singing is particularly bad on the song I Knew That, and with Gwen Stefani on the song Runaway, Snoop and Gwen just sound incredibly awkward together. Like the collaboration could just not have been more stiff, which is kind of sad because it's one of the better instrumentals on this LP. I mean, really the star of the show on this record for me was Pharrell. I mean, Snoop's singing is so quiet on most of this record that my head can't help but gravitate toward whatever the beats are doing, especially since they're more interesting. I mean, even if the vocals were bad, I don't understand why not mix them louder if Snoop is supposed to be the star of the show. And for those of you who didn't really see this sound or this direction coming, I mean, you had to have heard Peaches and Cream, and also Snoop not too long ago did a collaborative record with Dame Funk, whose production style is primarily synth funk, but that was kind of a smaller, independent underground release. It was okay. It had its moments. I preferred Dame's production style maybe just a little bit more than Pharrell's when it comes to this synth funk sound. I think Dame's beats and his grooves just kind of rock a little bit harder. His synth tones have just maybe a little bit more bite. So while there are good elements about this record, whether it be the beats or maybe the tune of a song or maybe what a guest does when they come onto a track, little to nothing of this record's goodness, in my opinion, has to do with Snoop, at least when it comes to the performance aspect. I mean, maybe he was writing a lot of what makes this album so good in terms of its writing, but the singing is just so bland and uninteresting and quiet and not that skilled. I mean, for me, there wasn't really much of anything outside of one song that I could say Snoop really hooked me in and kept me interested. Even though people probably aren't going to slag this project as much as they did Snoop Lion because it just seems so, I don't know, weird and ridiculous to us at the time that he would make that sudden change in trajectory, this record to me is a lot like that Snoop Lion album in that it just kind of feels like a weakly put together vanity project. Which, if Snoop wants to do that, if Snoop just wants to go totally synth funk and do his own thing and just, not really care about the quality or the results because he just kind of wants to have fun making this kind of music, because it is hugely influential to, his music from back in the day, and, this style of music is really significant to his progression as an artist. If because of that he kind of wants to dabble in it a little bit, and he has the money to put it out on his own imprint, more power to him. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to like it, especially with such weak vocal performances from front to back. I'm feeling a strong 4 to a light 5 on this LP. Transition.
Everything trail. Subscribe.